Let's watch a student, Melissa, work through the steps of Read Naturally Live. Melissa logs in by going to the Read Live homepage and clicking Student. Then she enters her account number, user ID, and password and clicks Log In.
Please select a story.
Melissa's screen displays 12 stories, and she can choose to work on any that she hasn't already passed. She clicks on the story she wants to read.
Tricky Tale.
Are you ready to start this story?
The Key Word step teaches students key vocabulary words that are important to the story. Melissa clicks each key word to learn the words and their definitions.
Appendage. An appendage is a body part that is connected to the main body or head of an animal. A finger is an appendage. So is a fin, a tail, a tentacle, or an antenna.
Notice the progress bar at the top of the screen. The progress bar shows where students are in the steps. The software highlights Melissa's current step, key words. To move on, students click Next. But notice the Next button can't be clicked until all the requirements for the page have been met. For this step, Melissa needs to read along with all the key words before she can continue. In the prediction step, students predict what the story will be about. This activity prepares their minds for reading by requiring them to briefly think about the topic. Melissa can't move on until she types her prediction. Once she starts typing, the Next button becomes enabled. This step is timed. By default, students have 2 minutes to complete their predictions once they start typing. Teachers can change this time limit if needed. Once Melissa finishes typing her prediction, she clicks Next. The red header and footer indicate that the teacher is required for the student to continue. While waiting for her teacher, Melissa practices vocabulary appropriate for her reading level using the Wordtastic activity. She clicks the best answer for each item and accumulates points for each correct answer. When the teacher is available, he clicks Conduct Cold Timing and enters his user ID and password. Once the teacher logs in, notice the header and footer change to indicate a teacher is present. The teacher should remain with the student until the footer no longer says Teacher Present. In the cold timing step, the software times the student for 1 minute as she reads the story for the first time. This timing provides a baseline for measuring improvement.
Click Start Timing and begin reading. Click on the words you don't know to hear them read to you. Click Finished if you finish reading before the bell sounds.
In this and the upcoming practice and past steps, a reading guide is available to help students' eyes track words across the screen. Melissa can choose to turn off the reading guide by clicking the switch. Clicking again turns the reading guide back on. Melissa clicks Start Timing and then reads the story aloud as her teacher listens. You can tell that a timing is in progress because a watch icon appears.
Birds of prey circle above, and snakes slither through the grass and leaves on the ground. These and other predators...
Notice that Melissa moves the reading guide to highlight each line as she reads. Melissa clicks on any words that she has difficulty reading to hear them pronounced.
Threats.
These words are deducted from her score as errors. Melissa's teacher coaches her through this cold timing by helping her identify her errors. When he determines she can self-time, she can complete cold timings independently. If a student reaches the end of the story before the timer sounds, he or she clicks a Finished button that appears on the last page of the story. This is more likely to happen when students are reading in the lowest levels, where the stories are shorter.
A fully grown western skink measures approximately 7 inches.
Click on the last word you read when the bell sounded.
Melissa clicks on her last word read. After the timing, Melissa clicks Next to move on. Notice the Teacher Present label is gone. The teacher can now leave, allowing the student to work independently. The bar graph shows the number of words Melissa read correctly during her cold timing, as well as the reading rate goal she must meet to pass the story. Melissa clicks Next to continue. Melissa has completed the keywords, prediction, and cold timing steps. Those steps prepare her to work in the story she selected. Now, she'll work towards mastering the story, beginning with the read-along step. Read-along is the teacher modeling step. Students read aloud quietly with a recording of the story. This step helps students learn unknown words and practice difficult words. The modeling also encourages proper pronunciation, expression, and phrasing. A Spanish read-along option is available for some levels. You can require students to read along one time with a Spanish translation of the story before the English read-along. This may be appropriate for native Spanish speakers in your class who are learning to read in English. Reading along to the Spanish translation first may help them better understand the story in English.
Click Start Read Along and read along as the story is read to you.
Melissa clicks Start Read Along and reads the story aloud quietly with the narrator.
Birds of prey circle above, and snakes slither through the grass and leaves on the ground. If the predator hasn't eaten the tail, the lizard may make a meal of it.
Click Start Read Along to read along again.
When a read-along isn't in progress, Melissa can click on the highlighted vocabulary words to see and hear their definitions. Anytime the vocabulary words are highlighted, they can be clicked.
Birds of prey. Birds of prey are birds that hunt animals for food. Eagles and hawks are birds of prey that kill and eat reptiles, fish, and rodents.
Typically, students read along 3 times, but older students may only need to read along once or twice. Younger students and some students with disabilities may need to read along more than 3 times. Melissa is required to read along 3 times, which is the default setting. Her teacher can adjust this number if needed. Melissa can't move on until she completes all 3 read-alongs. Once she reads along the required number of times, she can click the Next button to move on. In the practice step, students time themselves as they practice reading the story without the narrator. This repeated reading step helps students improve their fluency, master difficult words, and deepen their understanding of the story.
Click Start Timing and begin reading. Click on the words you don't know to hear them read to you. Click Finished if you finish reading before the bell sounds.
Melissa clicks Start Timing to begin her first practice.
Birds of prey.
She reads the story aloud quietly and clicks on any word she doesn't know to hear it read.
Basking.
Any word Melissa clicks is deducted from her practice score.
Click on the last word you read when the bell sounded.
Melissa clicks on the last word she read. The number of words she read correctly is displayed.
You need to practice more to meet your goal. Click Start Timing and continue practicing.
Students must practice until they can read the story at or above their goal rate. Students typically practice 3 to 10 times before they reach their goals. By default, a student must practice at least 3 times, even if he or she meets the goal earlier. But the teacher can reduce the number of practices required. Practice timings are usually 1 minute to provide frequent evidence of improvement, which motivates students. As students improve, teachers can require their students to do whole story timings, which are useful for improving comprehension in the longer, higher-level stories. For whole story timings, students read the entire story and click Finished when they get to the end. Melissa continues to practice until she reaches her goal.
Click on the last word you read when the bell sounded. You've reached your goal. You've finished all your practices. Click Start Timing to practice again, or click Next to continue.
The Next button becomes enabled once Melissa meets the requirements for this step. She clicks Next to move on to the quiz step.
Click the best answer and then click Next.
In the quiz step, students answer several questions about the story. This step evaluates student comprehension of the story. The number and type of questions varies based on the student's level and series. The questions for most of the stories follow a specific pattern to help teachers identify what areas of comprehension, if any, are challenging for a student. For example, question 5 in Melissa's level always asks students to connect the information in the story with their own ideas. Melissa answers the questions as they're displayed on the screen. Students can refer to the story for help. The software will correct most of Melissa's answers. Her teacher will evaluate the short answer questions during the pass step. Once Melissa has answered all of the questions, she clicks Next to move on to the retell step. This step helps students to comprehend, remember, and retell what they've read.
Retell or summarize the story in your own words. Click Review Story if you want to read the story again.
Melissa clicks Review Story to review the story first. When she's finished, Melissa closes the story to return to the retell screen. This step is timed. By default, students have 5 minutes to complete this step once they start typing. Teachers can change this time limit if needed. Students can't move on until they've typed something in the box. Once Melissa's finished retelling the story, she clicks Next to continue. Melissa has worked to master a story using the Read Naturally strategy, and now she's ready to try to pass.
Now you're ready to pass. Read the story and play Wordtastic until your teacher comes to pass you on this story.
While Melissa is waiting for the teacher to conduct the hot timing, she practices reading the story independently and plays the Wordtastic vocabulary game.
Click on the last word you read when the bell sounded. Click Start Timing to practice again. Or click Next to continue. Play Wordtastic while you wait for your teacher.
These waiting activities alternate until the teacher arrives, providing additional reading and vocabulary practice. Melissa's teacher comes over to conduct the hot timing. He clicks Conduct Pass Activities and logs in. During the pass step, the teacher evaluates whether the student passes the story by listening to the student read for 1 minute, counting errors, and rating the student's expression. The teacher also reviews the short answer quiz questions and the student's retelling of the story. For the hot timing, Melissa sits at the computer with her teacher. When she's ready, Melissa clicks Start Timing and begins to read aloud. While she reads, her teacher counts any errors. Melissa reads until the timer sounds.
Click on the last word you read when the bell sounded.
Melissa's teacher enters the number of errors he heard her make, and he rates her expression on a scale of 1 to 4. The bar graph shows the improvement between Melissa's cold and hot timing scores. After discussing her results, Melissa's teacher clicks Next to continue. This screen displays Melissa's answer to the first short answer question. Her teacher clicks See Correct Answer to view the answer key for this question. He decides the answer is correct and clicks Next. After reviewing Melissa's short answer questions, her teacher determines if the retelling of the story met his expectations. He confirms that it's acceptable and then clicks Next to continue. Now Melissa and her teacher can review Melissa's work. Under the Pass Results heading, each item listed has a star, which indicates Melissa has passed the story. Melissa and her teacher also review graphs of her work within the level.
Congratulations! You passed this story. Click Done to finish.
Now, Melissa can select a new story. When she's ready to exit the program, Melissa should click Log Out before closing the browser or browser tab. The next time she logs in, she'll be returned to the step where she logged out.